Well, this case continues to get massive attention as the outcry over the gang rape continues, and we've just seen a group of lawyers out here at the court in South Delhi demonstrating in a show of solidarity with the rape victim. Now, the 5 men are expected to be formally charged at the court in the next 40 minutes. Then the case is due to move to a new fast-track court that's been set up specially in response to this case. But most rape victims have a very different experience if they report their attacks at all. They often wait years for their cases to be heard. I've been talking to one Indian woman who survived a rape, and she told me about her long struggle to get justice, starting with her experiences during her hospital examination and the invasive test they used, which she described as humiliating.
The medical examiner had no sensitivity at all, she was absolutely inhuman. The way she was examining me, and obviously it was extremely painful for me, for a moment I just stopped existing as a person and I just became a person who was raped.
And can you tell me more about what happened then in the hospital? You said they called out for you.
I was waiting at the reception and someone just called me as, okay, now call the lady who was raped. That sound still echoes in my head.
I understand you were also pressured into trying to give up the case. Can you tell us how they tried to do that?
The defense lawyer met my friend, and he came up with something like, okay, get them married, get done with this whole case. Even his parents tried to approach one of the witnesses, that we should drop the case.
You were urged to get married to the man who raped you?
Yes, I was.
As a way of getting you to just
get done with this case and forgive him for whatever he did, get married to him.
You said you were very worried about the stigma that you would suffer as a result of being raped. How deep-rooted do you think that is, that mindset?
In India, a lot of importance is given to a girl's virginity. The moment you lose it, you've lost all the respect. I grew up thinking that if you're raped, then you're doomed. People would not accept you. They're going to ostracize you. But, genuinely in my case, my parents were the biggest strength. I had a strong support system. And I doubt if a lot of women have such a strong support system. A lot of these cases don't even get reported. Women are scared to report these cases.
You were on the protests yourself?
Yes, I was there when the crackdown happened at the India Gate.
And what did you think of that, and what happened then?
The best part that I liked about going there is there were a lot of men and women who had similar thinking. I feel that people became more vocal. Everyone was sharing their story. People were coming up with a lot of, suggestions, whatever they feel that should be the change, A lot of women came up and surprisingly equal number of men came out. They were supporting this whole movement. We need more men like them. The voice there of a very brave rape survivor I was talking to earlier. She believes because of extensive intimidation of witnesses, she lost her first case, the first round of her case, but she is now appealing. Some say it's unfair India's being singled out when many other countries have worse statistics on rape, but by some estimates, Indian experts who work with rapists, that as many as 90% of rapes in the country go unreported because of the stigma and the fear that they won't be taken seriously. And it's a demand to end this mindset and the atmosphere of impunity that has got so many men and women onto the streets calling for India to change.
Andrew North in Delhi. Andrew, thanks very much. Well, I spoke to Indira Jaising. She's India's additional Solicitor General, the first woman to hold the post. She's one of the government's law officers who's been put in charge of drafting a new bill to tighten up the laws against sexual assaults. And I asked her whether she thought that India had a particular problem with rape.
India has a problem with the issue of discrimination against women, and I think that violence against women is a manifestation of that, and therefore the real challenge for us is going to be how do we move towards a society where women are treated equally. But I would say problem of rape I've seen all over the world. I don't think it's a particularly Indian phenomenon. What we are complaining about is that the process of justice delivery is too slow and the rate of conviction is also low. So there is a problem there that we need to address. But your question...
To be clear, the rape conviction, there were 635 rape cases in Delhi, as I understand it, and only one conviction last year.
Well, I don't think those statistics are quite accurate.
That statistic is quoted very widely about just one conviction. Is that wrong?
You see, you have to look at averages over a period of years. And if you look at averages over a period of years, we've figured out that the conviction rate is about 24% of all the cases that are brought to court. So cannot confirm.
Lot obviously don't get to court. Is that the explanation, that for some reason they don't actually get to court?
There are many, many cases which don't get to court. Universally, there is a stigma attached to even bringing a case for rape into the court. There are disincentives. There are families who would discourage their daughters from complaining about rape. But when you're talking about the conviction rate, you're talking about the number of cases that are brought to court, and yet they do not result in a conviction. That's the real problem that we are facing. And for that, I think the solution obviously is we've got to improve our crime investigation methodology, make it more scientific, make it more expeditious. You know, in the very process of delay, witnesses can get just dissipated. You don't even know what happens to a witness over a period of years. Memory fades. And so all this can obviously result in a very, very low rate of conviction. This is the challenge that we are facing. And as you're aware, the Chief Justice of India has announced that there will be fast-track courts. But I know that this is no magic formula. I personally believe there's also a major issue of bias which operates in the minds of decision makers, and that is going to have to be addressed.
Bias in what way?
Well, you know, stereotyping women across the world, you see it, the blame game, blaming the witness, trying to find out, did she invite the rape, so to say. You know, you've heard in the United States, senators distinguishing between legitimate rape and illegitimate rape. Now, what is that? It's all about blaming the victim.
And in India, there are gruesome accounts of what happens to women when they go to hospitals and the medical authorities and say what's happened to them.
There is a case for sensitizing the medical community. The problem with the medical evidence is that they try to find out whether the woman has had sexual intercourse prior to the incident of rape. And that's where the real problem is, because it's not about the prior sexual history of the victim, is it? It isn't. And what's the point then of a medical professional trying to investigate whether or not she's had a prior sexual history or record? So yes, there is a need to completely change the way medical evidence is collected in the first place. A need to change the way medical professionals look at the whole issue of rape. They have to understand that it has nothing to do with the past sexual history of the woman and focus their attention on the particular incident, the complaint with which she has come. And of course, foremost expectation from a medical professional is to treat the victim regardless of whether she wants to file a complaint or doesn't want to file a complaint.
When you look at the problems that India has, and not least the problems with the police and the army, the state security services, who some women have accused as well, can you draft a new law to change the way that the whole system works?
It's a challenge. I cannot say that it's an easy task. It's not only to do with the drafting of laws, it's also to do with every single member of society participating in this change.
And are you confident then that society, Indian society, can respond so that women, all women, not just the better off, are better protected than they have been?
I'm confident that civil society will keep up its interest in this issue, its commitment to this issue, and I think the challenge before us now is for the law to rise to the occasion, to take the aspirations of civil society on board, and to be ready for thoroughgoing reform, police reform, for example.
Ms. Jysing, when I'm talking to you, you referred to America, you've referred to the UK, almost as if India doesn't have a particular problem with regard to this. And yet from the outside, the numbers would suggest that you do. Do you accept that India has a problem with the way that it's dealing with rape of women there?
Okay, that's the issue. So if you look at the numbers, I think you'll find similar numbers across the world. But I will say this, that the way different societies respond to it is different. And there are some societies that have self-correcting mechanisms and they are able to respond. Either they have them or they've put the mechanisms in place. What is missing in India is that response system, the self-correcting systems which must exist in any society to deal with an issue like rape, which I have to say, under any circumstances in any society is completely unacceptable.